Hello, everyone. Monday. Today is Monday, August 10th. So we'll go ahead and start. Ayashmas. So here we are, Monday. And we are continuing with the 10 rules of daily life, or as Toy Sensei described them as the 10 characteristics of a life with ki. Number 3 is be grateful, or in Japanese, it is show gratitude for all you have. Kansha Hoen. I don't know if I pronounced that right, but give it a best shot. So let me just read this short little paragraph that's in Will Reed's book. Everyone can find some reason to be grateful to everyone they meet, even if it only be for bringing them food, services, or for not doing them harm. Gratitude should be expressed in words, and it should be mutual, not a one-way street. In a dry desert of complaining and ungrateful people, grateful words are like an oasis to the thirsty ears. If we had more of it, we could transform the world. So, being grateful. What I would like to see or come about in this class with you all is to find out how you practice being grateful in your daily life. I know today I had a pretty interesting day. I was in Honolulu today, part of the day. I flew over on our own company airplane and flew back, so I didn't have to go through the airlines. And when I fly in the jump seat with the pilots. I flew there because I had to counsel one of our managers who is going through a lot. He happens to be originally from Greece, and his sister is dying. And she's been dying for about 5 years. She has cancer, but she has cancer of her liver. And what I did not know is that the liver is one of the only organs that actually regenerates itself. So the cancer eats a little bit and the body regenerates more. So it's a really long way to die, like horrible. So he's going through that. And his sister, we thought last year was going to be, we thought she died last year. She didn't. She's been in intensive care. And unlike the United States, in Greece, you can't pull the plug on anyone. She's being kept alive by machines that help her eat and what have you. And it's pretty much against the law to pull the plug. So she's hospitalized. And he's been going through that for quite some time. He also found out his wife's mother, his mother-in-law, has also been diagnosed with cancer. She happens to be in Greece, but is an Italian citizen, so she can't get treatment in Greece. She has to go back to Italy. However, she's of the age that she can't travel alone. So he had to send his wife, who has an Italian passport, back to Italy to basically move her back from Greece to Italy to set her up with the doctors and what have you. With all that transpiring, I had to counsel him because he had a security violation. And at the airport, it's pretty serious about security. And if you leave a gate open or something like that, it's really, really, you get in big trouble. Thank goodness he didn't get in trouble from the state or the feds. It was kind of an internal deal with our company that he got caught, which is common. So I had to counsel him about that, and it's really hard to sit down with somebody who's got all, and I know all these personal issues because he's told me, that he's got all these personal issues going on, and it's a really stressful time for him. So not only has that, I had to go and talk to him about, hey, you had a security violation, and we sat down and talked, and he is not a religious person. But I could tell, we've talked in length beforehand that, hey, at least there's nothing wrong with him. He said, I feel like I have the world on my shoulders. I'm taking care of my wife, my mother-in-law, and my sister. But he still had pretty good presence to have a positive attitude, even though I was there to counsel him on a security violation. And it really kind of hit home for me because, here I am, I've got to teach this class or be with you on this class on gratitude. And, how I was thinking, holy Toledo, how can he, if I was in his position, it would be so hard to be grateful, because you got all this crap going on. And, of course, I gave him some, pointers, tried to help him out as best I could, and told him to seek some counseling, professional style. And that, brings me to how you guys handle gratitude, how you guys, practice it. And, we only, we tend to have a lot to complain about. I know when I get with my friends, we don't always talk about what we're grateful for. We talk about the crap in our lives, and Fincher can he can confirm that I complain a lot, and I'm no different, and than any of you guys, and Curtis Sensei is no different than us. I mean, in a sense that he's been training a long time, but he still has moments of complaining. And so do I, and I'm sure you do too. So I would like to start off with Fincher, because he has a lot to be grateful for, of course, but he also complains a lot to me. So
I was complaining all day today.
How are you?
To myself, actually.
I think you're muted. It says you're not muted, but I can't.
You can't hear me? Some people can hear me. Mute anyway.
I hit my mute button when I was talking, so I couldn't.
Well, thank you, Sensei. Yeah, it's now when you see a lot in the news and you see a lot of struggle, and you're part of that as well. I know myself, I'm working, I have a paycheck. So comparatively, I think, that's kind of cheating maybe. Comparatively, you can really look at things and kind of compare and know that, oh my gosh, I'm certainly a lot better off than these people. And for the grace of God, I might be there. But I'll tell you what really helps me. I do a lot of complaining, but when you just kind of stop, I think regular meditation really helps me a lot. That you just kind of let it go, and you just kind of stop the wheel from turning, and when you let go and you just become silent and give it a chance, I think it kind of just rises up, really, somehow. And I think if you give it a chance to stop and let go and just kind of look at what rises in you, I think that's what helps me a lot. Because you can kind of see things that are obviously really beneficial in your life. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't disagree with anything you said. I reading this paragraph, what Toi Sensei had written, in a dry desert of complaining and in grateful people, grateful words are like, aces to thirsty ears. And if we had more of it, we could transform the world. And I think when I read that, I was like, oh yeah. And the one thing, I always try to do is I always try to tell people how much I appreciate them. Just, hey, I appreciate that, because I think a lot of people we tend not to talk about that. I'm reading a really good book, and in the book they were talking. It was talking about this uh, mother, no, father-daughter relationship, and the father had passed away. And at the funeral, one of the people went up to the daughter and said, "You know what? Your dad was super proud of you. He talks so wonderful about you. It's just he had never met her, and he said, I just want to say, your father really, really talked so much about you. It was great. He really appreciated you and was super proud." And she said, "Wow, he never told me that." And she was just being matter of fact, like, "Wow, he did." It's kind of a surprise to her. And when I heard that story, I was like, "Oh yeah, we really have to do. I think we have to make more of an effort of that. Make more of an effort to tell someone, hey, thanks, I appreciate that, or hey, I'm really grateful for you doing that." And if we, it, it's kind of like we tend to think they have this thing, pay it forward and all that kind of stuff. I think if we just were more aware and more understanding of people and appreciation, I think it would go a long way to that. But I see someone on the deal here on the Zoom, David Heva, who just had a metal knee put in his. So he just had knee replacement surgery. David, you're here. I'm so happy.
I can say,
How are you feeling?
um, actually a little better every day if I really look at it that way. It's quite painful, but it was painful before, so you know. But yeah, I'm very grateful for a lot of things. Honestly, of it seems like for me, the things that I think the worst thing happened to me ends up the best thing that ever happened to me. Sometimes, and then sometimes what you think is great ends up not so great in the end. So yeah, as far as the knee though, yeah, it's coming along. I mean, it's been a long journey for that and other issues too. But I have a great team around me. I mean, as far as these you people here and at home too, so it's pretty grateful for that. Yeah.
And how do you practice being grateful? Do you have a practice for that?
Um, so I wouldn't say I do reveal it to people, probably not as much as I should, like you said. That how do you say thanks 10,000 times? I don't know, but I try to show it by just doing things, certain things maybe, or helping the person who helps me. you know, I mean, not just laying there and being coddled, for however you want to say that. And but yeah, it is hard to show your true gratefulness to people who really stand for you or help you, and definitely could do better at that for sure. But like Fincher said, sometimes when you quiet down, but like again, I don't know how to express it to the people who say or the things I'm grateful for. But yeah, but I truly am grateful for sure. I mean, so I don't know. Yeah,
Good. I'm glad you're here. It's
yeah,
great.
me too.
Great,
Me too.
great seeing you.
Yeah.
Last Curtis Sensei gave a class on Kiire, Kivarai, and talked a little bit about that, which is in his book. We'll cover it down the line. And I distinctly remember, Suzuki Sensei teaching it. He taught it to me, you know, and he would do blessings at, you know, I think pretty much every Japanese business on the island was probably blessed by him, because people would call him from the community and say, "Hey, Sensei, I've got a new business. Can you bless it and give a blessing to it?" And he would, and people would get a new house, or they'd build a house or rent an apartment, whatever. They would invite him to go out there and do the blessing for it. And I remember when I was going for my first, the job I've been at. When I moved here in 2003, I got hired a couple months later at the job I'm at now. So I've been at that job for 17 years. But I was going for the interview, and it was in July, and I remember telling Suzuki Sensei, because I would go to practice with him on Tuesday mornings. I would go to the dojo and he would have a little practice with a few people. It was me and Melly Stokesbury and Sally and a few others. There's about 3 or 4 of us that would go there, and we'd do bokken cutting and hitting the bell and telling stories. He told a lot of stories, and we hit the bell and cut a lot. And I told him, oh, Sensei, I'm not going to be able to come to this Tuesday class because I have to fly to Honolulu to go to an interview. And he said, oh, I'll cut ki for you, meaning he would give me a little blessing, in the morning, because he would do blessings and that kind of thing every morning before after he did his breathing. And that was a big part of his practice, was being grateful. And Curtis Sensei as well. And it's so interesting when Curtis Sensei would come to Arizona to teach a seminar, he would stay a lot of times at one of our students' homes in Scottsdale. And this gentleman was a Sandan at the time, and I was like, I think 3rd Q or something like that. And we knew Curtis Sensei was coming, and we said, hey, Richard, me and my union pal would like to is it possible that we could come over to your house in the morning and do ki breathing with Curtis Sensei? And he went, I don't know. I could ask. Yeah. Doesn't hurt to ask. So he did. He said, okay, send him over. So, but I do my breathing at 6 a.m. So they gotta be there before to be on time. Okay, no problem. So we all get there like 5:30, knock on the door. He leads us to the back patio where he had it all set up, and we have our benches and what have you, and we're like sitting around like school kids, like looking at each other, and we look at the time, and it's like 5:55, and about that time Curtis Sensei comes out, and he looks at us and goes, why haven't you started yet? And we're like, what to say. We just immediately just started breathing because we were like, well, we were waiting on you, Sensei. It was just one of those moments where we were like, oh yeah, we have to start. And then it's like afterwards, he did a little blessing type thing after his breathing, but we didn't know what it was. We were kind of like, what is he doing? And so of course we were too afraid to ask him, what his deal was or how he trained. It was all, it's like secrecy, we were behind the curtain, so to speak. And so later on, after the seminar and he went back to Maui, I emailed him and said, oh, Sensei, I noticed you did this little thing at your breathing practice. What exactly was that? And he gave me a long response. Well, I'll tell you, this is something I learned from Suzuki Sensei, and he just went on and on and on and told me all about this little thing. But don't think you can just do this. You need to train for this, and this is better. Said something about hanging from the tree of awareness for years. I mean, something like that. He was always full of those metaphors when he would talk to me, at least. And I'll just never forget that. Knowing that when you do have a practice of sorts, you start integrating what you come about, what comes up in you, and what happens with you in your life, and what you bring into the practice. So with that, I think Toby Vogels looks really anxious to talk. He's Mr. Talkative. He'd probably run the show here if I let him.
Yeah, you always mute me when I want to say something, Sensei. So yeah, thanks for that, saving me here. There's so many things to be grateful for, right? In our lives, and especially family, friends, and students, and not so much about what you have, but more who is around you and who is surrounding you. I don't have a practice of being grateful. It just kind of, we built a new house here and a dojo and the whole setup. And every time I drive back up and down and I see it. So there's, I cannot be not grateful for that. You see it, it's in you. I imagine when living on Hawaii, when you drive to work and the sun is shining, you are grateful for the place that you're at. In our case, when it's snowing, well, maybe not when it's snowing, but now the sun is shining. So I'm, happy, grateful, positive. I do have a problem with being negative a lot, complaining a lot about the things that are, because in the things that you have, you get used to. And the moment you get used to it, you start to complain about the things that you already have or what we build a new house, but the garden isn't finished. So we'll complain about the fact that the garden isn't finished yet, instead of looking at what we have and how beautiful it is, So, so I think there's a definite difference between your relationships and the things that you have. The things that you have, I can start to complain about because I get used to. I never complain about my wife because I cannot get used to her. She's, you know what I mean. That's what I would like to say about that, Sensei.
Good. Yeah, you do have a new dojo, and Curtis Sensei did the blessing, correct? Last time he was there?
Yeah.
Great. Yeah, really. Yeah, I would get calls from people, when I'm calling and they go, wow, are you having a bad day or something? I said, no, how can I have a bad day? I just look out my window. I'm in Maui. What's not to like? And it's kind of funny, but of course you forget. And then you're like, in Maui, we have a beautiful dojo. I've been to lots of dojos on the mainland where people are training in garages, literally, a garage. That has mats thrown down, and that's what they're training in. And in Arizona, we were in a an air park, where those factories and what have you. It was not, like this pristine, area that's beautiful and wonderful. It was just like, construction stuff all around. And I remember training in this place in Texas, and literally it was in the guy's garage. He had it was like a 2-car garage that he threw mats down, and there was tools over here and something over there and lawnmower there, but that's where he trained, and that's what they had to do. Kind of make the best of it. And there's a lot to be grateful for, that's for sure. Yeah, I totally can relate to that. So, Lillian Paiva, how are you doing today? She always goes, oh, I knew you were going to call on me.
Hello, Sensei. Hello, everybody. Okay. Well, this is a subject that's come up a lot for me this past year. It's almost like flashing constantly, like a neon sign. And I guess this is my mantra lately. And with these Zoom classes, it's been really interesting because it's come up quite a bit. And, Curtis Sensei the other night in his Kire talk was talking about how he gets up in the morning and the first thing he does when he puts his legs down is says he's grateful. And Charles Boyer Sensei, I can't remember which class it was, had talked about being grateful for arriving at the moment we are at right now, being who we are and getting this chance to come together and to follow this path together, So I've always been grateful, but probably on a more, I don't want to say materialistic thing, because when you come from not having much, you learn to be grateful for everything you have, whether it's a meal or a toy or something. So I've always been grateful for my parents and things in my life, but now there's so much more deeper meaning to it, and I realize, for me anyway, that if I'm not being grateful, it's because I'm having a moment of self-pity. And I try not to, because there is balance in everything. And what I might consider bad, like I think Toby Sensei just mentioned, or even David Sensei in his way, that things change. If you're in pain now, but it's recovery pain, or You choose to look at something because where you're at. I told somebody the other day jokingly that every once in a while I feel like there's somebody up there in the universe who has a big fly swatter that's chasing me around and going, oh, there she is, there she is. But on the whole, things work out the way they're supposed to. And I'd much rather laugh than be in self-pity. So if I catch myself going off on a tangent, I just remember what we've all discussed and say, hey, knock it off. Get your act together. Smile.
Right. I get it. Yeah, I get exactly what you say, you know. In order to change, we need to give up something. Something has to be given up. And we don't like to give up a lot of stuff. Like, I learned a lot by being injured. When I was injured and couldn't train Aikido, I sat on the bench and, you know, would talk to Suzuki Sensei and watch the classes. And let me tell you, that was misery for me. I complained a lot because I couldn't get on the mat. But looking back on it now, I learned so much. And sitting right next to Suzuki Sensei and hearing what he saw, you know, him going, oh, yeah, you see this over there. You know, and I would have never thought that. You know, I could have never said, oh, if somebody said, oh, do you want to be injured? I would have said, no, not at all. But yet, you know, I learned an immense amount of training with him. And even, you know, with some people, you know, saying, oh, well, you know, you shouldn't. You know, some people say, oh, don't come to the dojo if you're injured. Some people say you got to come anytime. You get all these different opinions. And I say, do it. If you do, you know, do what you need to do. But, you know, when I was there, I wanted to be on the mat. You know, a lot of people were, well, if I can't be on the mat, I'm not going to go at all. Let me tell you, I learned a lot just by watching, So I get what you mean there. Christelle, how are you?
Hello, Sensei. I'm fine. Yes, I think to be grateful is a opportunity in your life to really look for the things that really count in your life. And during this pandemic situation, I stay more at home because I work at home office. And I'm very grateful for this opportunity to join all the classes and to meet the people which I met at seminars or at Japan or at seminars with Kyoto Sensei again in doing this Zoom classes. And it's really a joy for me to see them all and to know them better and to feel and listen to them and feel how they are, and we get a deeper connection. And I have some memories of meeting them at the seminars and so on. And I think we are in our life, we have really a precious opportunity. And even my husband was very ill during his lifetime. He has very much it has a traumatic experience at war, and it was sometimes very hard for me to look for health or for healing. And but doing this long life journey, we met very many very high teachers. So after we are together 24 years, and if I'm looking back in the past, through this we met really, we had very precious opportunity, and I'm very thankful that I met this kind of Aikido, because as in my youth I was searching for this spiritual opportunity, but now I know I'm this is right. I'm not longer searching. I'm just experiencing, listening to the teachings and to Curtis Sensei and so. And I know deep in myself that this is the right opportunity. This is right. Yes. And I'm thankful for that. That's I want to say.
I
Yes.
always love what you have to say. I just love hearing you talk. You really express things very well, especially, since English is your first language. It's German, of course, as your first. But yeah, you do really good. I really enjoy hearing you. John doesn't like to talk, on the other hand, and I figured you being a priest here on Maui, and what kind of practice do you have, John?
So as a Buddhist, I have a chant, a mantra. I say Namo Amida Butsu, Namo Amida Butsu, Namo Amida Butsu. And that just makes me appreciate life, our ancestors, the Buddha's teachings. But my second new practice that I kind of think about is listening and noticing and paying attention, being patient, showing compassion, and having gratitude every single day. A new one is slowing down, slow things down. But noticing and listening is one of my main practices. As I notice, then I realize, oh, things aren't so bad. As I listen or pay attention, I realize, if I'm complaining or feel sorry for myself or I'm angry about something, then, I just slow things down and I say, notice, pay attention. And then I feel like, I'm actually grateful for someone not being happy about something or something not going so well. And then things get better and change.
Yeah, that's very good. What chants do you do in the morning when I hear you chanting?
It's the sutra. Amida, yeah. Amida,
What's the name?
The Amida Kyo. It's yeah.
That's the one you're practicing.
Yes.
Nice.
But mostly we're chanting Namo Amida Butsu, Namo Amida Butsu repeatedly. I embrace Amida Buddha.
Kind of like a mantra.
Yeah.
Nice. Good. Susan, how are you today? How is Washington State, Seattle?
Hi there, Sensei and everybody. Washington is just fine. We're having lovely weather and it's not too hot. It's just my style. So for me, I was very lucky in that I retired this last year, which was perfect timing for what was to come. So, of course, didn't know any of that ahead of time, but so my husband and I are constantly reminding and reflecting on how lucky we are to be retired and in the position that we're in, where we don't have to deal with any of the real seriousness of, the whole crisis and all that kind of stuff, pandemic right now. If we don't want to, pretty much we can just stay at home, and we have a lovely neighborhood where we can go out walking and can get into the woods. And so we're constantly kind of pinching each other about how lucky we are that we're here in this place now, especially during this time. Makes it hard because in some ways, because we know how much other people are struggling, and it just doesn't affect us unless we decide we want to go to the store, which is not such a big deal around here. And we have a few close friends that we see on a somewhat regular but not too frequent basis, but they're there. And so we think about that a lot. That we really ended up in a lucky position at a very unlucky time in the world. So that's basically it.
Sure. Can you remind me where did you work before you retired?
I worked for Washington State Department of Ecology, and I did some computer mapping things, but and I would have been okay in that job because they were very accommodating for people to work at home. Some people could work at home 1 or 2 days a week before any pandemic when I was still working there. I never chose to do that because I liked the rhythm of a regular work day, leaving home and going to work. But I could have done that in the pandemic. So I would have been okay. But they are having to now do some furloughing and taking some unpaid days because, of course, the state budget is getting very tight. So that would have affected me some. And what would have affected me more in the work life is then suddenly not having the daily contact with people, that I used to have. But I had already adjusted to that because I had already been retired for 6 or 7 months. So, yeah.
Thanks. Yeah, I didn't realize that you work for the state.
Yeah.
Nice. Well, I would like to ask Kayomi, how are you today?
Thank you, sis. I'm doing fine. Thank
Good.
you. Being grateful is, I think I tend to thank things and people a lot. And in fact, at work, I was told that I'm thanking too much. And so I don't know, but I'm very grateful for this class. I think because of this COVID-19, which is really horrible, but without this, I wasn't able to be included in this Zoom, and I could learn from people. And also I found people, more like-minded people. That's really rare in this world, and I'm very grateful for that. And I was raised in Japan, and winter is very cold there. And I'm not good at like cold weather. My body gets so cold. My husband said I'm like a reptile. I don't know, like those animals who can adjust the temperature. I just, my body doesn't adjust the temperature. So in Hawaii, every morning I wake up, I don't have to struggle to get up because the temperature is so perfect all the time. So I don't have to say, oh, I need to stay in this futon for a while and nothing like that. I'm very grateful. And just walking outside, just beautiful flowers, and I'm very grateful. Things I feel very interesting is that when I'm not feeling well, I can't feel gratefulness. So I'm feeling grateful that being able to feel grateful. I don't know if I'm explaining enough, but it changes. Like when I was in the hospital for 4 days about 10 years ago, I couldn't eat and drink anything. 2 or 3 days. And first meal they brought from the hospital meal, and I thought that was so delicious. you know, it's all mushed up and like a baby food. But I thought how tasty it was. I was so grateful to be able to eat that. But the second day, the feeling was gone already. It wasn't tasty anymore. So I think it changes. So it's really important for me to notice about this. And then one of the stories I think someone shared in the Zoom session, I still remember, is the person had a cataract surgery, and then it was blurry before, and then suddenly all clear. And then the mother was happy at first, but then she started seeing the black dots some on the wall or something, and I started feeling unhappy about the dot. And I still remember this, and whenever I feel very not happy, not grateful, I try to remember that. Now I start seeing the black dots on the wall, but overall it is wonderful. So I try to get back to that kind of state of being or mind. That's all I can say. Thank you.
Oh, nice. I get it. Yeah, I know. Isn't it interesting that Curtis Sensei really would have never done Zoom, I don't think. I'm sure. I don't think he would have. Even if, you know, if it would have been no pandemic and I would have said, hey, Sensei, you know, they have this thing called Zoom and we could have classes, he'd be like, no. I'm almost sure he would say that. Hopefully he'll correct me, but if I'm wrong, but I'm almost positive he probably wouldn't have. But now he's really into it. He loves classes and the structure and the seeing everyone from all over the world. He's just amazed, and he's very grateful of that. Extremely. I know that because he's expressed that to me. So yeah, that's one of those things. You know, we gave up training in the dojo and we access this kind of training here. And I'm sure as we start to go back, you know, some of the people in Germany I know are training. I'm sure he's already said, hey, I'm gonna continue with these Zoom classes because I like them, you know. So he'll be doing it forever, probably, until there's no computer. Charles Boyer, how you doing tonight?
Doing great, Sensei. Thank you. How are you?
Good. What kind of practices do you have being grateful?
Oh yeah, that's a good question. Well, we've been talking about that a lot lately. I know Curtis Sensei has been talking about it a lot. When he was here on Oahu, he and I got together. This was last month, yeah, and he talked about it then. So it's something that I know is on his mind a lot lately. Yeah, I mean, I have so much. I'm very fortunate, just like other people have commented, I'm very blessed for all of the benefits I have right now. You know, what I tell my students, and this is, you know, I guess probably personal, you know, I don't necessarily expect my students to tell other people this, but it just comes out sometimes in class. So when we're, you know, in Lokahi, we have our Saturday morning class is a long class, so we usually start with some sitting practice before we do key stuff, stretching and all of this stuff, and then Aikido. And so we sit for a while, and then sometimes I talk a little bit about it. I ask how it's going. and you know, my point for doing that, the reason I do that is because for me, that is how I express my gratitude for being here, for this life, is by sitting. I didn't always see it that way. You know, this is something that's had to kind of grow in me with the more practice I've gotten. But yeah, I mean, even talking about it now, it's making me a little teary-eyed. So forgive me, but yeah, I mean that's so, and so you know, and it's like when I sit, this is what I'm expressing in a way. I'm expressing that gratitude by doing this activity. And I, in class, when we sit, then I share, and sometimes the emotion of it as well, I share with my students, you know, with that maybe they will experience it in a similar way. But yeah, it's I mean, we just, I do my fair share of complaining, and I have this wonderful, wonderful partner in my life who puts up with it. Yeah, I mean, I have so much to be grateful for. And so because of that, you know, and all of the attention I've gotten from my teachers, all of the energy they've put into my own development, the only way I know to repay that is by doing this practice, by doing this sitting practice, and then sharing it when I'm teaching. And yeah, that's what I say.
Oh yeah, good. Yeah, I like it. I think that's very valid comments all the way around. I would like to ask Ilaria, she practices, what practice her gratitude?
Hi everyone. I don't think I have a daily gratitude practice. I do when I start having a lot of overwhelming negative self-pity thoughts, I redirect myself by thinking of all the things I have and how grateful I am for them. When I think about what my gratitude practice would be, it is like kind of counting my blessings, like sitting down, being quiet, and like thinking of everything or as many things as I can that I'm grateful for. And I did that a few years ago on Thanksgiving, and it brought me to tears. I haven't done it since though. It's more just like kind of a redirection when I get too negative.
Right. Yeah, I can see that. I think all of us get that way, you know, in some form. Or as Fincher was saying earlier in the evening about comparisons. Oh, well, you know, and we tend to compare a lot. But I think, you know, just being open to whatever comes up and just saying, wow, this is what it is, you know? I mean, we make the best of it, whatever it is. Whatever happens to us, we're always pretty resilient. Most people are pretty resilient, and we just have to stop, as John was saying, you know, listen, what comes up, what arises in us, because we tend to do a lot of blocking or dodging of whatever's coming up, whatever's happening. You know, ignoring it doesn't mean it doesn't go away, or not making a decision is still a decision. So we tend to have those kinds of things that always come about, you know, oh, I really haven't thought about that in a long time, except when I'm negative. So yeah, I'm guilty of that. Everybody is, I think. Gloria definitely looks like she has a comment to make or two. How are you this evening?
I'm very well, thank you, Sensei. I do have several things I'll try to remember. Most of them, one practice that I intend to do and don't always remember to do, like I've forgotten about it for several weeks now and want to get back on it, is just to, in the morning, one of the first things I do after doing my key breathing is to pick up a book that I keep it in, and I just write down 10 things that I'm grateful for. And it's a good way to start the day. And someone recently said that if you are grateful for things, whatever they are, then you attract more things to be grateful for. And when you're negative, you attract more things to be negative about. So I prefer to start with being grateful. And even to, someone else mentioned this and I thought about it, and oh yeah, that's a good thing. You're in traffic and there's the inevitable slow driver, you know, and you're in a hurry. So you can either get like this and be upset, or you can be grateful for slowing down and maybe having a chance to kind of peek at the scenery around you, or notice the different kinds of cars, or just for a moment to slow yourself down instead of being upset. Today I was at the gym and the air conditioning was out, and it was hot. And so when I went downstairs, I didn't say, the air conditioning's out, why isn't it on? I just said, is it me, or is the air conditioning not working upstairs? And he said, it's the air conditioning. And then he went into a story about the mall owners who would prefer to patch with duct tape rather than to replace the whole system, because it works for about a year and a half and then it shuts down completely. And we may have 2 or 3 weeks, during which I do a lot of walking outside instead of going and sweating in the gym. But, you know, things like that. So, one practice that I do have, and I try to be good at this, is to, when I notice my son doing something, particularly that I haven't asked him to do, or sometimes I have asked him to do and now he's doing it, is to just say, thank you. And it reminds me of a student that we had. He was one of Nalwai Sensei's assistant instructors. And his Clayton, he told us a story one time about how at work he would, if his supervisor scolded him for something or, you know, reprimanded him or whatever, he would say, thank you. And she was like, this is just like very upset. So he invited her to go lunch. And so they're talking and about this, and she told him about something he needed to prove on. And he said, thank you. And he said, that's what drives me absolutely crazy. But it was just a practice that he did. And part of it, I think, you know, I'm aware that in the dojo, if sensei comes over and corrects something that we're doing, we are supposed to remember to say, thank you, because we are learning something. And at the end of class, we thank everybody, you know, for being there, for practicing with us, which I think is a lovely thing. And there are just many things to be grateful for even now during a time that there are some things we can't do. And one of them is the classes. And I like to tell Curtis Sensei every so often how grateful I am that he's doing these, because I'm meeting people I've never met before because I haven't gone to Europe with him. So I know many people in a way, and we're going to get to know each other better in the breakout rooms. I can tell you, when you get in the little groups, you get assigned to some people probably that you don't know very well, and you'll get to know each other pretty quickly. So it's kind of fun and exciting, and I'm just grateful for the opportunities to learn new things, do new things. And I should mention, we had 3 days of rain. Now, my feeling about this was really different from the year that we had 42 days of straight pouring rain. At a certain point, I was not grateful anymore. It was just a muddy mess. But we have been so dry that the rain was just wonderful. And I recall after Hurricane Iniki didn't hit Honolulu, I lived in town at the time, and it veered and hit Kauai, and I felt sorry for them, but I didn't know that at the time. After we learned it wasn't going to hit us, I went walking, and I had my umbrella, and after a while it wasn't doing any good. So I just folded it up, and I'm walking in the rain. I'm just dripping wet. And I meet a woman who's coming from the other direction, and we both just laughed and walked past each other. But it felt so good to be out and to be cool after being humid all of that time. So just, you know, you can be grateful for many, many things, but I think the most important thing, I would say, is to let people that you live with all the time know that you appreciate what they do and you appreciate who they are. Oh yeah, it reminded me of a story. When my mother died and we were sitting and talking to the minister about the service, people were talking about how supportive she was and how positive and all this stuff. And I'm going, are we talking about the same woman I grew up with? because she wasn't that way with us. But I realized that it was partly because I gave her a book after she had breast cancer, and it's called Love, Medicine, and Miracles, and probably many of you have read it. And it's a really nice book. And so she read the first page, and he said that that people who have cancer are angry. And she said, I don't think I like this book. I just read the first page. He said, people who have cancer are angry, and I'm not angry. And I tried not to laugh. And so I didn't, but I just said, you know, you've only read the first page, just give it a chance. So she did. To her credit, she read the book after I left. She ended up giving it to 5 or 6 other women who had cancer. And she became much more positive than she was when I was growing up with her. So I was grateful that I had given her that book and that she did read it, and it changed the way she interacted with people.
Wow, that's great. Thank you for sharing, Gloria. I really enjoyed everything you said. Jan, I've never called on you, but you're the only one that has a video screen open that hasn't spoken.
Hi, Sensei. I find that as I grown older, I'm more thankful. Whereas when I was younger, and I take things for granted. So I feel just thankful each morning when I wake up to have another day of life, and I try to be positive, and I try to thank people more. But I think Aikido has helped me bring it to another level, be more aware and more thankful for things. I appreciate these Zoom classes, and I appreciate hearing everyone's comments. It's helping me a lot. So thank you.
Oh, that's great. Thank you. And now that I know you can talk, I'll call on you more. Now, Jan is great. I've always enjoyed trading with her at Okahi. Well, okay, so I don't know who wrote this story, but this story, I have to say, made me laugh out loud when I read it. It's called Thank You Very Much. Once upon a time, there was a young man who was deeply unhappy. He had many good things in his life, but they didn't help. When he was at the end of his tether, he heard about a teacher who was supposed to be good with hopeless cases, and he made the journey to see her. I'm very unhappy, he said. I'm too restless to sit still and do spiritual practice, and I'm too selfish to practice compassion and service. I reach for what I want, but when I get it, I'm not happy, and I'm always looking for the next thing. I don't have a clue where to turn, but I'm told that you deal with hopeless cases, so perhaps you can help me. You are my last resort. Teacher paused and said, I'm glad you came, she said. I might be able to help, but you'll have to agree to do the practice I ask you to do. Well, why don't you tell me what the practice is? And then I'll decide if it will work for me. Oh no, she said, the deal is that you agree to do what I say, and then I tell you what you must do. There is no other way. He hemmed and he hawed, and he went back and forth, and he finally surrendered and said, okay, I'll do it, but I won't do it forever. So she said, try it for a year and let me know. A year? She said nothing. Okay, he said, give it to me. I'll give you the practice I do myself. Whenever anything appears in my mind or appears in the world, I say, thank you very much. I have no complaints whatsoever. That's all? That's it? That'll never work for me. Ah, but you agreed for a year. So off you go now. Thank you very much. I have no complaints whatsoever. So he left. And she more or less forgot about him. But the year passed, and he asked for an interview and arrived in her room. It's just as I suspected. I knew it would never work for me. I'm still just as unhappy and selfish as I ever was. Immediately, she said, thank you very much. I have no complaints whatsoever. With her words, he felt an eruption in his chest and began to laugh and immediately understood what she meant and laughed and laughed and laughed, and his happiness didn't subside, though it did become quieter after some months. Thank you very much, he told people. I have no complaints whatsoever. So here are some questions you can ask yourself. Who am I grateful to? What was my best day ever? Am I bitter about something? What's that like for me being bitter? Am I grateful for something that surprises me? Am I not grateful for something I expected to be grateful for? And what are your practices of gratitude? So with that, we'll close the class and I'll see you next week. Domo arigato gozaimashita. Thank you all very much. Have a great week.